Howdy everybody! Today I'm going to walk you through some of my favorite motorcycle habits. These are just like little things that I've picked up over riding the last 10 years or so. There's like these tiny tips and tricks you can do on your motorcycle that just makes things a little bit easier. Let's start off with some slow speed stuff, shall we? Just some little tips and tricks and slow speeds, because I feel like that's where people get really tripped up, is like ultra slow speed riding and parking lot riding like this. The first thing I'll tell you about like navigating parking lots and stuff is feathering your clutch is going to be your best bet, right? So keeping it in first gear and doing all that. Like, you learn all that in the MSF, right? You know, gotta just feather the clutch, make sure it goes nice and slow, all that stuff, right? But the big thing that I would tell you to make sure you don't drop your bike in slow speeds, look way through where you want to go. In slow speeds, you know, if I want to go back that way, before I even go that way, like, I gotta really hang my neck all the way over here and then drag the rear brake a little bit. It just makes things a lot easier. So you'll see here, we'll go basically full lock, just check our left over there. If that's where I want to end up, I just drag the rear brake a little bit and I end up there. So that's a really easy way to make sure that you don't drop it in slow speed situations, is drag the rear brake. You don't want to use the front brake pretty much at all in slow speeds. Because check it out, when you're turning like this and you go for the front brake, look at that. The motorcycle wants to fall over. So it's a lot better to just go a little bit slower than you'd think you'd want to go in slow speeds and just use the rear brake. Because then you can stop and obviously do the left foot down trick as well, and you're able to just come to a stop really easily. So basically I have two modes that I operate in. If I'm operating in slow speeds, I think about, okay, like I need to just put my rear foot, my right foot on the brakes and just crawl a little bit and then use my left foot down as well. Some riders, you know, if you're practicing this in a parking lot like this or there's not many people around, you know, you can practice just keeping your left foot down the whole time and just see how that feels. Like literally just pull away like this and just keep your left foot down. You can toss the 360 over to this side so you guys can see. So literally you just practice like this, like just roll forward, keep the foot down, and then come to a stop with the brake. That way you're kind of controlling the variables. And then of course you can then practice, you know, you get your foot up and cruise around. See how slow you can go without putting your foot down. And as you balance that rear brake, you can see that you can basically reach 0 miles per hour and just kind of play with the bars a little bit. And you just always have that foot ready to go in case you drop it, right? In case it wants to fall over to the side, you just, whoa, catch it just like that. So slow speed stuff, feathering like that, rear brake, man, it'll save your bacon pretty much every time. The other tip I can give you guys for slow speeds is how to execute a really tight U-turn. So you basically need to go full lock on the motorcycle, but then you don't just let it go from there. What you have to do is basically get the bike on its side a little bit and look completely to where you want to go. So you get it full lock, you have your foot on the rear brake, and then you look over here and you just guide the bike through like this. And you'd be amazed how tight you can get the bike back to where you need to go. That's why we kind of goof off in this channel a little bit when we see beginners kind of doing the waddling thing. They're kind of, you know, pushing the bike back, looking that way. It's a lot easier too to just do it left if possible. Like, I'm really lazy, to be honest. I don't really like doing ultra tight right hand turns because, you know, while you can do it without dabbing your foot on the rear brake, the principles basically work the same. You just don't have the ability to drag the rear brake, which just makes it a little bit more stable, but you can still do it full lock. Just get your foot over a little bit and knock it out. But the difference is with the left one, it just makes it feel a little more comfortable. So that's my little tip, is if possible, put yourself in a position where you can go full lock, go left, lean it over, foot on the rear brake, and just go like that. It just makes it a lot easier. So that's a little slow speed tip for you guys. Let's get out on the road and do some faster speed material. A habit that I've picked up over the years, of course, is covering my front brake. This one is so important. I talk about it all the time. I pretty much always have this grip on my right hand. My thumb is wrapped around the throttle, and then I pretty much have complete control over the throttle with basically just my palm and my two smaller fingers right here, my pinky and my ring finger. I pretty much have the throttle clasped around like that all the time. That way, if a situation happens in front of me, I can just go ahead and get on the brakes. I don't have to go from this neutral riding position here all the way to the brakes in the front, right? So honestly, riding like that is, I ride like that pretty much 90% of the time. If you look back in some of my older videos, you'll notice that I didn't used to do that, but ever since I went to the Yamaha Champ School about 4 years ago now, you know, that's just a habit that I've picked up, and I'm pretty much always covering my front brake like that because you never know what's going to happen and what people are going to do. But the other tip that I've picked up is what I call the clamshell. Over here on the left-hand side of the grip, what I do in traffic a lot of times, if I am going through an intersection or I just feel like I need to make myself as visible as possible, what I do is basically quickly clamshell the horn and the high beams. That's going to be these two right here. The reason I do that is because it's far more effective to operate those two controls rather than relying on the exhaust or your whatever else. You know, if you can just quickly go to this and then you flash your high beams and hit your horns at the same time, that's a really great thing to do in traffic. I can't even begin to tell you guys how many times it saved my bacon to just quickly jump over here and do that clamshell, you know, horn and front headlight, just bam, just hit it really quick. That helps a ton. Now, the other tip I've picked up over the years, this little habit of mine, it's minding my lane position in regards to traffic. And this one's a really important one because lane positioning, I've talked to you guys before about this in safety videos, it's not a fixed thing you want to do all the time. You're using your lane position to put yourself in the best position for a given variable, right? On a nice kind of, you know, back road like this in the countryside, this is usually the best place to be, is hugging the inside of the corner, because as you see cars come towards us this way, you don't want to be hanging out all the way over here on the road, right? Because if a car just goes a little bit over that yellow line, your handlebar could get nicked, your mirror could get nicked. So it's almost always better to be on the safe side of the road, which is usually the inside of the road here, away from the oncoming traffic. But the other thing that you want to do is if you're coming up on a right-hander, typically what helps is going to the outside and giving yourself more visibility around the corner and seeing around the corner as well too. Again, it's a moving target, right? You're not always going to be the outside, you're not always going to be the inside. But the most important thing to do is to not treat it like a racetrack where you're trying to hit apexes and go outside, inside, outside. There's really no point to doing that on the street. You basically just want to pick inner or outer and kind of stick to it and avoid crossing the middle as much as possible, just because, like, yes, it is fun to do those kind of more flowy lines and kind of go in and out, and you'll see a lot of canyon guys doing that on YouTube, but really it's not the safest thing to do. And that saved my ass quite a few times riding, where I had a car come close to me in the lane, got to go in the outside, inside, and picking that lane position. So that's a little habit that I've developed over time, is just minding my lane position really, really well. The other habit that I highly recommend you guys start practicing is riding on the balls of your feet. I've gotten a lot of flack for this over the years, and quite honestly, I don't understand why. Maybe people get a little defensive if they're like cruiser riders and they're always riding like duck foot out like this. But really, riding on the balls of your feet is the best way to ride a motorcycle. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first is that you have most of the control over your body when you're on the balls of your feet. Think about when you're in a fighting stance, or you're dancing, or you're running. You're not clomping around on your heels. We don't have as much balance and we don't have as much control when we're flat-footed or using our heels. Our feet have an arch to them. They're designed to be on the balls of your feet. That's that athletic stance that gives you control and dominion over what you're doing. Now again, when you need to go for the rear brake, as I'm going right there, or you need to shift, you can quickly go to those positions, but then I really recommend coming back home, so to speak. You get back to this, balls of your foot position. There's a lot of advantages to riding on the balls of your feet. It helps for clearance, right? If you're achieving higher angles of lean, you don't want to be riding with your feet pointed out or on the heels, because that's going to impede your ability to corner, because you're going to be impacting your foot as you dip it over to sides, on the road. So you're more athletic, you're more capable. And the other thing it helps with too is it allows you to stand up on the bike a little bit easier to avoid bumps in the road. One of the best parts about motorcycles is that you're able to utilize your body as part of the suspension. So if you have a bump in the road, if you're on the balls of your feet, you can very quickly just raise yourself off the seat, let the bike work underneath you, and not get that impact felt directly onto your butt, which is nice, Now, as I'm behind this big water truck over here, another habit that I've picked up over time, and this comes with patience and age, is patience, right? Going for passes on roads like this without having very clear visibility is a really foolish move. And a great habit is to practice patience when riding. I see way too many riders getting into sticky situations simply because they weren't patient. Motorcycling rewards patience, and you'd think that, it's like you're going to be frenetic and riding fast and doing this and doing that, but honestly, the vast majority of the time, if you just lay back and just wait a sec and just observe what's going on, you'll avoid like 90% of incidents. I always see things happening to people when they just didn't wait, If you're stopped somewhere or if you're riding kind of slow like this, that puts you in a really good position to be defensive and to wait and to do what you got to do. Because, man, if you're just like rushing through traffic and doing crazy stuff, you're not putting yourself in the best position to ride for another day. And I look at it this way, right? Where it's like, what are you going to gain, right? If you really put yourself in that position where you're looking at the situation from the top down and you say, okay, like I could go for a crazy pass right now and pass this guy. What am I going to gain? Well, I'll gain the ability to ride fun on this road for the next 5 minutes. Okay, what could I lose? A car could hit me and I could ruin literally my own life. The risk-reward ratio there is pretty lopsided, right? If you actually take a second to just analyze the risk-reward when you're riding, instead of riding over your head and being impatient, it's just a way better habit to practice. So I highly encourage practicing the habit of being patient on the road, because it will pay many, many dividends. Another habit that you will pick up as a motorcyclist over time, if you're coming from the car world, it's going to feel kind of odd to do this, but the vast majority of motorcycles like to rev. You don't need to be lugging the engine on most motorcycles. The vast majority of beginner bikes, your Ninja 400s, all those things, they have a red line close to 10, maybe sometimes even 11 or 12,000 RPM. So don't be afraid to rev the thing. Don't be afraid to get up in the RPMs with your motorcycle and actually use it, because they work best when they're revving. Motorcycles are designed to rev, so you're not going to hurt the engine by revving it. And if you build in the habit of keeping your revs up, the bike will just work better in general. You'll have power more easily accessible. The gyroscopic forces will just kind of keep the motor spinning a little bit faster. I think the bike just ends up working a lot better when you're in that optimal power band for whatever bike you may have. If you're riding a low slung cruiser that redlines at 6,000 RPM, it may be that 3,000 RPM's your happy spot. I've noticed on these middleweight adventure bikes, that go kind of like 10,000 RPM, 11,000, 5,000 to 6,000 RPM seems to be the real happy spot of these bikes. And I kind of view it this way, like it's usually about 50% of your RPM, your max RPM, is usually the optimal RPM for your motorcycle. So I kind of like living between that, right? Between the 40 to 60% RPM of the motorcycle, sometimes taking it up to 70%, right? And you're like, oh man, this is nice. I get to use the engine, feel it out a little bit. So yeah, like imagine, you have a Yamaha R6, right? Red lines at close to 15,000 RPM. Probably that happy spot is between 10 to 12,000 RPM. You don't got to scream it to 15,000 every time you ride, but getting it up to about 10 to 12, like that's where it's going to be real happy and you can actually use it. But remember, that's all related to how many cylinders you have, the state of tune that the motorcycle's in. But for most normal street going motorcycles, that 40 to 60% of the max RPM is usually the bike's happy spot. And you can feel it too, honestly. You can feel when you're riding the motorcycle where it's happy. if you're lugging it around or if you're stringing it out a bunch, you know, you'll notice pretty quickly that it's not doing what you want it to do. All right, this next habit is one that I feel like people pick up pretty quickly, but I still wanted to talk about it. It's scouting the road. If you're going out for a ride and you got a nice chunk of time to go out and ride, I highly recommend before you hit up your favorite twisty road or your favorite section of road, if you want to ride with a little bit more spirited pace, you know, right now, speed limit here is 40, I'm going like 50. I'm not going very spiritedly, right? I'm basically just keeping up with the flow of traffic, so to speak. I highly recommend you go and scout the road first. Go and just see if the conditions are as you remember. Are there any new potholes? Are there law enforcement officers waiting around the corner for you? These will all massively help you to not have an incident when you ride, because all these habits I'm talking about is really just incident prevention, right? Check this out. We hit this with our adventure bike. I don't even care, dog. Got that long travel suspension. I'm gonna hit that full speed, baby. But as an example, that speed table back there, you know, not too long ago I came to this road and I was like, oh, they just like installed that here, and I guess now I have to, you know, be mindful of that. And there's another one coming up right here that you'll see. And it's interesting that they put these in here, and it's something new to think about when I come on this favorite road of mine. So, you know, going out and scouting the road, just getting the lay of the land, that's always a good thing to do. You never want to go in blind, because that's where you're going to get a ticket, you're going to get caught out by gravel, you're going to get caught out by stuff. So do a nice little scouting run if you're able to, and that'll save you a lot of headache. The other habit that I can highly recommend is to be light on the bars, man. I see a lot of beginners death gripping the bars, death gripping the motorcycle, and you don't have to ride the bike that way. Bikes reward smooth inputs. They reward nice inputs. Unless you're trying to ride, you know, at the 11/10th pace of a Moto America racer, the vast majority of the time, your motorcycle can just be ridden in this nice, easygoing way. You can be light on the bars. Like, it's kind of a crazy analogy, but I've always said to basically hold the handlebars or the clip-ons like you would hold the leg of a baby. You just want to gently grasp the baby's leg. You just want to, you know, hold it. I've also heard it called the screwdriver grip, right? You just want to screwdriver grip it. You know, don't be too crazy with it. Just enjoy the, you know, light feeling that you get on the bike, because letting the bike work for you makes the ride more enjoyable. If you're tense and you're grabbing the ever-loving bejesus out of your bars, you know, you're just not going to have a good time. Like, my grip on my handlebars right now is pretty light, man. I'm not, you know, death gripping it at all. This next habit's just a little quality of life one. Always remember to put your helmet on first and then your gloves. I feel like my first couple of years of riding, I always got those two mixed up, and then I would put my helmet on, I'd forget to do up the strap underneath, and then I would then be having my gloves on, and I would forget to do up my helmet, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I did this again with my gloves on. So just make sure to put your helmet on, cinch it up, and then do the gloves. Oh, and I just realized my strap is not done up right now. That's what I get. Been riding this whole time without my strap done up. Well, boys, what are you gonna do? Let's pull over and do it up. That's another habit. If you notice your helmet is not done up, pull over as soon as you can and do it up, because you really do not want to be having your helmet not done up. Luckily, I'm on an adventure bike, so I do not care about all this gravel and crap in the road. That is so funny that I just mentioned that, and it's been undone this entire time. Hilarious. I'll give you guys a behind the scenes here. Usually when I record my vlogs, I pop off my helmet, make sure my earplugs are nice and in, and I check the audio on the GoPro. I guess I just forgot to do it back up. That is so funny. Well, there you go, boys. Look at that. You see this truck coming through? Imagine if you were, look at this. Imagine if you were on the inside of that corner. Look how far on the outside he is. Imagine if you were, and he's like spilling water and stuff on the road. Imagine you're coming in on this corner and you are on the inside of that. Not wise. Not wise. Ooh, another habit I can tell you guys. Let everything warm up. Not only should you let your motorcycle warm up, you should let yourself warm up, and most important of all, you should let your tires warm up. This is not only for track days, which is obviously the most important to let your tires warm up, but cold tires can catch you out on the street too, man. I see a lot of guys going out trying to rip it up, and they're like, oh, I can't believe what happened. Why did I lose grip? And I'm like, well, you just started the bike and you tried to go fast on a twisty road. Let your tires warm up, man. And the thing is, when you're riding on street and you're not getting super aggressive with the motorcycle, you know, you're not braking super hard and putting load into the front end, you're not using the rear tire, spinning it up a little bit with the throttle, it's kind of hard to get it up to temp sometimes. And so if you are riding in cooler conditions, you know, that kind of like 55, 50 degrees or whatever, be mindful that you're gonna have a lot less grip. Don't go out there trying to achieve max lean angles and go crazy with your motorcycle when it's colder, because you really don't have the same level of grip. Motorcycle tires are made of rubber, and rubber likes warm weather, warm, sticky, warm tires. Well, my speed is oh my God, bro. What's going on, brother? What'd I tell you guys? Gotta keep your front brake covered. That's why. Dude was fully in my lane. I love that you guys are seeing in this video some of the habits that I talk about. Well, boys, I think that's going to wrap it up for today in terms of the habits you should be thinking about. If you got any other little tips and tricks that you want to share with the community, drop a comment down below. It also helps the good old YouTube algorithm. And as well, join on yammynoob.co. We got a sweet giveaway bike going right now. And soon enough, here in May, we're going to end the Smart Pillin 401 giveaway. And then, of course, we are going to be doing the new Panigale V2S in June. You're not going to want to miss that one. I'm very excited to do that motorcycle and feature it on the channel. So if you sign up right now, you'll get entered to win, locked and loaded, and then you'll join the Discord server as well. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you watching. I'll catch y'all in the next one. See you later.
Keep watching Yammy Noob!